Welcome to Bridging De Pere, the inaugural City of De Pere podcast. We will be with you every month to talk more about all things happening De Pere. My name is Kim Flom, City Manager with the City of De Pere, and I'm joined today with Mayor James Boyd. How are you?
I am good. Thanks for having me on the first show. This is very exciting.
I'm excited as well. Why don't you tell us a little more what everyone can expect to hear from this podcast?
Yeah, first we should probably address the name because names are really important for podcasts, as we found out. So Bridging De Pere, obviously De Pere is, dissected by a river, so bridge is pretty important. I'm not sure people realize that we've had 3 bridges in the history of De Pere. We're on the 3rd one, and we're always striving to, bring De Pere together. Everyone thinks that the west and east side are separate cities, but they're not. So we think this is an opportunity to bring the discussion together and talk about the city as a whole. So
yeah,
pretty
I love
exciting,
that.
isn't it?
I love that. Well, and it's closing the loop because you're exactly right. Even just geography bridging, but also this is a chance for us to get a little bit deeper into some topics that we hear a little maybe more than the news or what you see on social media. So very good explanation. So speaking of podcasts, what is your favorite podcast?
Yeah, coming up with a name was really important. We had a crack staff get together and we tossed about a bunch of names out there and stuff. So I found that naming is pretty important. Let's look at some names of podcasts. We have The Daily, which is one of the top podcasts in the United States right now.
Do you listen to that one?
I do a little bit, but I actually got brought into the podcast world by my youngest daughter, Anna. I've got my oldest daughter's in Minnesota, so we travel a lot. So you can only listen to so much radio when you're traveling to Minnesota and back. So she got me into the Amy Poehler podcast, and that's called Good Hang with Amy Poehler. You know who she is?
I do know who she is, but I haven't listened to that one.
Absolutely hilarious and just really good content. So that kind of got me in the podcast world. And then on Facebook every now and then, Conan O'Brien's podcast will pop up. Conan O'Brien, I think he's incredible. So I'm kind of into him as well too. So those are 2 of my kind of go-to ones would be those 2. How about you?
So I love Morning Brew Daily, which is, I'm a big fan of The Daily and The Journal, but Morning Brew Daily, 2 folks out in New York that cover just all things in the news. A little bit of a financial spin, but that's my quick hit on what's going on in the world. My new favorite, though, it's not a new podcast, but it's new to me, Armchair Anonymous. Have you heard of that one?
I have not.
Fabulous, hilarious. They throw out a topic. People call in with their actual stories in real life. The most recent one I listened to was attacks by wild animals.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great.
So we're kind of in a light podcast, correct?
I like both. I like news and light, little true crime once in a while.
So people understand when she mentioned call-in, we don't have a call-in component to our podcast. Maybe in time we will, but right now we're just we're going to deliver and we're just going to talk. All right. I was thinking because State of De Pere is still kind of big right now, and at least that's got the buzz and people in De Pere talking. We just kind of address a few things with that. And we don't have to get a deep dive because if people want to learn more about State of De Pere, it's out there on YouTube and they can watch it, and we're doing a number of posts regarding highlights of what happened. But the big thing right now, obviously, is the Shopko Development. That's something that's tangible for people right now that they can see is coming close to a finish. So why don't you talk a little about the Shopko Development, as we refer to it as, which by the way, is kind of odd. In time, I think we're going to ditch Shopko Development and call it something else. Maybe have another name or something.
Maybe, you know what? Maybe that could be a poll for our listeners. Yeah. What should that area be called? Because, it always has been called the Shopko Development. So Shopko, of course, has been gone for a long time. Large parking lot, big building. It is completely transformed if you haven't been through downtown De Pere. The apartment building is, all of the facade is out. I think they're working on the outside. The hotel is, pretty much all the structure is all up. And our first public parking garage. Wow. Over 200 parking garage spaces for downtown De Pere visitors, residents, workers, so folks can park in one spot and walk anywhere they want on the east side.
And I think hotel-wise, they're actually putting stuff inside the hotel, TVs, and the amenities are coming in. And that said, I think completion is July, August?
Yeah, it's sometime this year. I have a question for you.
Sure.
Okay, so the hotel dynamic, because I love this dynamic, but I'm sure people are wondering about it. And you, direct connection to Union Hotel with your family. Now you have a brand new hotel next door. What are your feelings there? The more the merrier?
Yeah, I'm not involved with the hotel that much. The rest of the family is. It's odd. It really, really is, because this is a big change. You had the hotel, which was built in the 1880s, the Union Hotel, and you have a new hotel right next door, built in 2026. Odd, very strange. It clearly singles the demand to have this type of amenity in De Pere. But yeah, it's strange because we often talk about trying to, retain the historic character of the downtown, which we're doing, obviously with the Union Hotel and other structures. But unfortunately, you can't build something as to what it was back in the 1880s. You kind of build for the times, what you have right now. It's mixed emotions, but I think most everyone's recognizing, we're progressive. We want to move forward. We want to expose as many people as possible to all that we have happening in De Pere. Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of the idea we're getting out there. Now, I'm not sure our house, when we talk Shopko Development, was taken down in the 1980s, where we grew up for Shopko. So Shopko didn't last that long. We expected to be around for multiple, decades, and now it's gone. But it is kind of exciting to see both the old and new blended together.
Right. Well, and talk about eras of change from your house to a Shopko to sort of a mixed-use urban. I think it's a really interesting dynamic, and it speaks to the economy we have in De Pere, that we can have multiple hotels. That shows a super vibrant downtown. I love the dynamic of having something that's so treasured like the Union next to something that is new and different. And it shows that we're progressive in the way we grow. And I think there's going to be a lot of cross-connect. I think there's no restaurant in the Marriott, so folks who stay there hopefully are going to be at the Union for dinner. And I think, energy feeds energy, and I think it's going to be really great.
I totally agree. And we're also well aware, Kim and I and others, that not everyone's going to like what's going on. You're going to get a mixed bag with everybody, because change at times can be, tough to handle. But I think by and large, we pretty much agree that we're going to be in a good direction going forward. And we hope to take people along with us. Yeah.
One thing, and you've heard this and I've heard this, we know we treasure the character of our downtown. And that can mean a lot of different things. Character, by definition, is a lot of different things together. And De Pere character is certainly that of our historic, beautiful buildings like Union Hotel, et cetera. But you know what? It's also the bridge, which was pretty bold and dynamic for the era of which it was built. It's also our newer buildings. And I think as a progressive community, character is best in class and high quality for whatever you're doing. So it creates this great kaleidoscope of energy.
It does, and I think there's something that's really symbolic of that, and that's the new De Pere Heritage Center, the Historical Society, which has taken an original structure built in the 1830s, the White Pillar Museum, which was the house of the museum for many years, from the 1970s to the present, put inside of a building that obviously is more modern. But the idea is for it to have the older building inside the newer building, so it's around for generations to enjoy. So that's a classic example of trying to pay homage to what was with something new for today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we can pivot in different directions too. State of De Pere was, obviously a very
sold out event,
200 plus people. And I don't think people realize, so we're going to talk about this right now. There is a cap on attendance because the auditorium seats 200. So it's sold out, and that's really exciting. Since its inception in 2018 as a lunch, and limited participation as far as folks being allowed to show up and be at the event, to allowing everyone to show, not allowing, but having this available to all at night. Pretty exciting, isn't it?
Very exciting. It was standing room only, and you said sold out. So since we're diving in and bridging De Pere, let's dive in, because we definitely heard some questions about the ticket as well, right? Mm-hmm. Certainly, well, why would I have to buy a ticket for this? This is a community event. Everyone should go. Right. Let's dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, these things cost. So with your $10 ticket, you're able to get hors d'oeuvres. So food's included with the ticket. In the past,
really good food.
Really good food. In the past, when it was at a different venue, the charge was actually much more. I mean, you had to buy a table for $60, $120. It limited folks to be able to attend the event in the first place. So we thought, we can't have that anymore. We can't have corporate tables and tables bought just for a few. We want this available for all. So there are costs associated with these events. We have a sponsor. which we're very proud of, and they help defray the cost a little bit, but there's still a cost.
Yeah.
So we have to have something,
Yeah.
and that's why we have a little price.
It's it's an experience, and the reality is, you mentioned this early on, the content is there. We record it. It's on our website. You can not only watch this past year, but you can watch like the last 4 or 5 years, I think. So we absolutely want the content to be out there, but we also want a community experience. This is an event that you enjoy, and it includes networking at the end and free food. So, with that in mind, this isn't a money maker for any of the partners, but it is sort of creating a special community event. We're so happy it sold out. We want more to join us in the future, but we're really glad we have that video capability. We can just share it with everyone. I think it was out there within like a day or two.
Yeah, a day or two. And now they're actually doing a number of posts that highlight certain topics within the event. Well, you just hit on it. It was a community event. I often think State of De Pere, since we took it over a few years ago, is kind of the kickoff to community event season at the summer, because we're always striving to get people together. So we have the State of De Pere, which starts the whole thing, but then it dovetails into, the beer gardens, the farmers market, all the events we have going on, the opening of the pools. Since I started, and former Mayor Mike Walsh was the same way, Larry Delo, former administrator manager, and yourself are always looking for ways to get the community together. And in doing so, we found out that people want to be together. I mean, we literally could do an event every single night of the summer. Would you not agree?
Oh, I absolutely agree. And, State of De Pere is one of those great spaces because a lot of people come together that might not normally, right? It's not probably your standard bicycle group or whatever. You're going to run into neighbors that you don't even know. And now we're in it. Like, we are kicking off event season. There's so many exciting things happening. We've got all that information on our website. What summer event are you most looking forward to this year?
That's a great question. Well, we have the bike race back.
Yep.
So that's coming back
June
again.
22nd.
June 22nd. So I really enjoy that, getting, to the downtown to see people. I like that a lot. The beer gardens have just grown tremendously. Again, it's an opportunity to connect with people you don't often see. And then the beer gardens, it's exciting for another reason. There's people from all over, not just De Pere, that recognize the importance of having events and connectiveness. So I got to say probably the beer gardens.
Yep.
How about you?
Ooh, the beer gardens are definitely high on my list. Now, they are on Tuesdays, so everyone should mark their calendar for Tuesdays. And the great thing is having them every week, you don't have to worry about missing one. It's if you're free Tuesday, fabulous, come on out. If you're not, then we've got Thursday Farmers Market,
Correct.
Which is also wonderful. That's probably the beer gardens for me as well, because they always have a different performer. There's folks there. I always see kids throwing a football around or playing bags, and it's really fun. You see bike groups come in and park their bikes and stop for a beer and then continue.
It's a
on
very
their journey.
family-oriented event.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
I think beer gardens is kind of a deceiving title because that's not really the whole focus of it.
Right.
Plus, we have another event on the west side that started last year next to Pasquale's. So we have a new gathering space for events on the other side of the river, which is also very exciting that we're looking forward to as well.
It has helped me remember. It's like they're going to do like an art alley night a few times.
I believe that is
and even
correct.
A maker's market. I mean, it is, you will want for nothing in downtown De Pere. I have to add one summer event, and it's a personal plug because my son got his first job this year. And he's a lifeguard for De Pere.
Lifeguard.
So one of my new favorite summer events will be trying to walk by the pools and peer at him to see how he's doing in his new job.
It is really neat, though, how many we'll call them kids right now, but now grown-ups have had a job at one time in their career through the City of De Pere. It is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, we can dovetail that into something else. When we talk about youth and your son having a job is the new youth commission we have.
The youth commission.
How about you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So this is so exciting and an idea generated by our own team, very much supported by council. Last year, when I started, one of the things I heard from council members was we'd love more ways to involve citizens in local government. Talk about the perfect solution. So we've got 15 wonderful kids from De Pere. We had way more than that apply, so it was a competitive process. Their first meeting is May 27th. They will meet monthly, and they will talk about things local government related, but they also are working through a leadership workbook. So they're not only being exposed to the great work of local government and all the things we do, They're also going to learn sort of personal growth and leadership on their own. And what a great opportunity for us to hear from our youth about what's needed or necessary or desired in their community.
Yeah, and I actually met all of them, and it was just great talking and conversing with them. And then all of them kind of highlighted that, what can we do to help De Pere? One of the things is hopefully out of, each year's commission, they come up with some kind of initiative or some kind of idea to help spur De Pere. And I think they have an eye in the future as well, which kind of leads us to, we talked about the Shopko Development, that's almost done, but we're also looking at other developments in the city, one of which is getting a lot of conversation, which I'm sure the youth will probably have some input on as well, is a big project on what we call the Front Street property, the Front Street Development, which is a property that is pretty much vacant right now. 2 buildings will come down shortly, and we'll have a blank canvas as a result of a fire that occurred back in 2018,
2017,
27. Yeah, so
18,
it's been
19.
Been a while. So, downtowns are built for density and built for projects, and this is a chance for us to bring something in. So you want to talk about this new project?
Yes, it's named Lockside.
Lockside.
And it is a mixed-use development that will pretty much take that whole space. So imagine, in your mind, imagine Century Lane's bowling alley, the former Tile and Stone, and then that parking lot that goes kind of all the way to where George Street is. That whole thing will become a new mixed-use buildings, about 6 stories, and a lot of residential opportunities, 3 different residential types, condominiums on the top floor, townhomes that face the river, as well as a wide variety of apartments. You're also going to see a 2-story riverfront restaurant.
Yeah, very
First
exciting.
direct riverfront restaurant in De Pere, as well as other retail opportunities along Broadway. And I think most significantly, Front Street actually will close in front of this building. So no longer will cars drive the whole route of Front Street. You will be able to still access the parking lot where it goes underneath the bridge. You absolutely will access all of the other residential communities that are along there. But rather than it being in front of this building, there'll be a whole new public plaza space. Fox River Trail will be there, but it's a new front yard for De Pere, a new way to experience the river. There'll likely be public art in there. It'll be a new place for activities and events. All in all, a really exciting add to downtown. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, my thoughts are, I think it is an exciting. I mean, there's nothing there right now. When the structures came down or were purchased and eventually taken down, this has been 7-8 years of really nothing there. And, downtowns are built for vitality and having people and businesses interact with one another. We just haven't had that. So I'm really excited. Again, I talked about change before and seeing something different, something new, always evokes all kinds of emotions all over the place. But by and large, myself personally, I think it's really exciting. Anytime you can bring people into De Pere, as I said before, to experience all we have, and you're looking at 200 units, that's exciting, and the other exciting part is the public space, public-private space along the bridge, along the waterfront, the restaurant, which it's just amazing that, in our 100+ year history, we have not had a true waterfront restaurant. Isn't that crazy?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But historically, if you think about it, the water always was really more industrial. And when you grew up with that, change takes a lot of time. And so we're shifting and moving. The Riverwalk obviously was a massive shift in that direction, and eating the elephant one bite at a time.
One bite at a time. You mentioned the Riverwalk, which, if we had a podcast a few years back, that would have been, front and center. The Riverwalk, which is just incredibly exciting. This is a project a few years back that enabled people to touch the island that was untouchable, and then have a pier put out where people can go literally, out in the water on the pier, on the footings of the old bridge, which is really exciting. But back to the Lockside development, again, I think there's some misunderstanding that this is just for the wealthy and luxurious condominiums, etc., which it partly is, but the bulk of the project is market rate apartments to get everyone in the downtown and a chance to experience it. So I think people have to understand that was taken into account. And I think we should talk briefly about one thing. These projects are extremely expensive and take a huge lift. And we found out over the years that most of these projects of these size and scope need help. And that's where municipalities can come in. TIDs, tax increment districts, were created by the state decades ago, as an instrument for municipalities to help lift these projects from what couldn't be to what can be. You want to talk about that and how the city will be involved and utilizing what's called the tax increment district?
Absolutely. So you're spot on. So set the stage. There's a confluence of factors that lead to cities needing to help projects like this, especially in downtown. You have interest rates that are really high, which makes borrowing money for construction very difficult. You have construction rates that have equally risen a lot in the last 5 to 7 years.
And I should interject, we don't build anything.
No, right.
Cities don't build anything, so we're talking, these would be
cities
developers.
Cities can build things, like the MSC expansion.
Correct.
But we aren't normally in the world of private development.
There you go.
Right.
So, I'm sorry, go
yes,
ahead.
no, great point. And then, of course, you've got land costs. So over the past 5 to 7 years, all of those have gone up dramatically. Now, the good thing is, and this is not just De Pere, this is throughout the state and even throughout the country, cities sometimes do have tools to help. And one of our tools is tax increment financing. A lot of folks will read about this project and they'll see that we're providing an incentive and they will be very worried, like, oh my gosh, my tax bill is going to help this developer.
Yep.
That's actually not the case. The way the tax increment finance district work, it sort of secures a pot of money generated by the development and surrounding area, and it uses that for that development. It is the tool we can use to have projects like this to continue to grow our downtown, but also to make sure that we can curate projects that fit within the downtown. So if a project...
So we have a say in it.
We have a little bit of a say in it, which is really nice. And at the back end, if a TID goes really well, the state now allows us to use some of the money on the back end to further affordable housing efforts, which is something we've been doing with several of our TIDs. It gives us a local pot of money that we can put into other areas and other parts of the community to kind of improve our housing stock.
Now, with since the history of a little history of the law, since De Pere has been utilizing TIDs, we're up to 20 plus. Some have retired, but ballpark-ish, and we still have 16 active, or there's still a number that are active, and by and large doing quite well. Just so people know, a TID's life is anywhere from 20 to 26 years. 20, whatever you can pay off, whatever you incentivize. And so people don't misunderstand this. We're not paying for the whole project. We're throwing some incentives the way to the developer so they can get across the finish line.
Right.
Correct?
And it's, I will say it's very analytical in that we actually take a very close look at their financial pro forma, their expected return, to make sure that at the end of the day, they're in the same market as anyone else. They're not getting sort of any extra return based on our incentive. We are looking at all those factors just like a bank would look at all those factors to ensure the money we're putting in is true money they need. If it weren't for our participation, the project would not happen, and trying to find that dollar amount that's specific to that.
And we should also emphasize, too, that our most recent action as a council was that we approved the terms. We're basically telling the developer, we're good with this. Now they have to go ahead and try to, get to their finish point, which would be, securing tenants and all that kind of stuff. So it's exciting.
It's very exciting.
So I'm very excited about it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We talked briefly about affordability, and that's kind of a big thing. And we want to make sure that's not a miss here as well. We're very cognizant of the fact that affordability is, an issue, at the forefront for a lot of people. And that can be in a multitude of ways. But we'll just talk about housing, which could be an apartment, a house, a condo, whatever it is. We talked about ways that we're addressing that. You want to go through a couple of ways that
Absolutely.
we're trying to address affordability?
I mean, it's no secret that property values as well as rent rates have skyrocketed, not just in De Pere, not just in Wisconsin, but across the country. And we're all feeling the pinch. I think the council, you and the council, have been incredibly proactive into using the tools we have, which in local government is not a ton. Housing traditionally is something that's tackled by a lot of different entities. The federal government through HUD will filter a lot of money into especially entitlement communities. We are not an entitlement community. We don't get any of that money to provide affordable housing. Housing authorities are also in place. They often own their own units. And
which, by the way, we have.
We do have. The De Pere Housing Authority has not only like an apartment complex, but also several scattered sites throughout the city. So that's, that is generational affordability. It will always be affordable for folks on limited incomes. The county has a pretty robust voucher system as well. So depending on if you are income qualified, you can get a voucher. So you can rent something at a market rate, but you only pay 30% of your income.
Is that right?
That's something you would never see. You would have no idea if your neighbor in the duplex across the street was a voucher person or not. So
and that's good.
It's right. Well, exactly.
That's
right.
Good.
Like we want diversity in our community, and we have such great people in De Pere as well. So we rely on our partners a lot, Habitat for Humanity, NeighborWorks Green Bay, De Pere Housing Authority. Housing is complicated, and we have been able to use some of our tools. We have a pretty great home improvement loan program that provides low interest loans for folks to stay in their house and make improvements that they need. We work directly with developers on projects to secure things like maybe a percentage of that project can be for workforce housing. We continue to support the Rock the Block program, which again provides support to improve our housing stock for existing homeowners. And this year, the De Pere Chamber is also working on a Good Neighbor Week campaign. Same thing. They would do small projects through houses in De Pere to improve them and maintain them. So we'll continue to work on all of those things. It's definitely a priority of the council, but it's definitely also a very tricky issue that the entire country is experiencing.
They really are. We have a project actually right now at the Humana campus called the Phoenix Apartment Project, which I think does address some affordability needs. Correct?
That's one where we used our TID ability to structure a development agreement to have a certain percentage of units available for workforce. In the world of housing, there are all of these. We say 80% AMI, 60% AMI. There's all these things and factors, but essentially, a certain number of those units will be reserved at rent rates for folks that are making, generally 80% of what we call the area median income.
And then we have a lot purchase program for a future development, the turf property, we'll call that, where some lots will be available at a more reasonable price that we're going to utilize our captured affordability fund. So we're thinking of these things. And some of these are ideas that were generated through staff, development services, Dan Lindstrom. That was the department that you were involved with too. So a lot of these are novel ideas that generate just from De Pere. So we're very cognizant of it.
And we're very lucky that we have some tools and some really creative team members and really creative developers and folks investing in De Pere. They want to work on this. But it's definitely not an overnight easy solution.
No, not at all. Hey, maybe we can lighten up a little bit here.
Yeah,
so,
that got real heavy.
I mean, it got heavy, but it's really important heavy because it's kind of an abstract concept to talk about TIDs and talk about affordability. So to try to get that out to folks, I think is really, really important. And we're always available to answer questions. So please contact us if you have any questions. So let's just kind of lighten things up a little bit. And I thought we'd just kind of go toward the park system, which everybody enjoys in the city of De Pere. I think we're very blessed. We have great parks, and we have a council and administration that's very supportive of the park system. So we have a new one coming online. You want to talk about that?
Volunteer Park in Waterview Heights. And listen, I just appreciate you moved over to the west side. I'm just saying.
So love the west side.
we love the west side. And there are a lot of exciting things happening there too. I mean, the Phoenix thing, that is a west side development.
Absolutely.
So Waterview Heights is one of our newer neighborhoods over on the west side, and there's a beautifully designed park integrated into that. And so there was a lot of discussion about picking the name. They started working on it, but this year in our capital plan, we're going to be, I think, putting in playground equipment and the next phase of design. And I know it will be very well loved by the neighborhood. You are a history buff, so talk to us a little bit about like how the park board and council kind of came to Volunteer Park.
It's kind of neat. It's kind of a neat process. First of all, a lot of names have already been used, and you can name a park after a person, someone who had a great influence in the city of De Pere's history. Actually, the Historical Society was approached, and hey, do you have some ideas of what you'd like to name? And a lot of names went back and forth, and the park board considered a number of them. And the Historical Society eventually said, you know what? This is one that might make sense. Volunteer Park. Well, volunteer can mean a lot of things. I don't think they realize the historical significance that it actually goes back to the Civil War, when dozens of De Pere residents served in the Civil War and were considered volunteers in the Civil War. As a matter of fact, I saw the document that actually is in the Library of Congress. I think. It was shown to me by somebody else that had the names of the volunteers from the city of De Pere that served in the Civil War for the Union side. It's incredible. And it's all the who's who of De Pere. Matter of fact, a number of the streets were named after these folks. So this is just a chance just to say thanks for all they had done. And that's what the park's named after. So it's very exciting.
What an incredible homage, not just to our history, but to veterans. So something I love about that, we reached out to the Historic Society for ideas, and you talked about this a little bit at the State of De Pere, the importance of our community partnerships. We're local government. We do a lot of the services that are required, but talk to us a little bit about just community capital and the importance of all of us in making De Pere De Pere.
De Pere De Pere. I mean, we can go back to committees, commissions, and boards. There's 84, residents that serve on these committees, commissions, and boards to make De Pere what it is right now. And then you go to the service groups, the Kiwanis and Rotary and the Lions Club and all those folks that are involved to make De Pere better. We talk about the Historical Society, which was created in the 1972 by former Mayor John Grout, recognizing the importance of the history of De Pere and trying to maintain that, preserve it, and present it for generations to come. And those are people that just got together and said, hey, this is something we have to do. Which is very exciting. We have a sister city group that was started 15 plus years ago to try to connect communities from around the world. We connected with a city in Sweden called Umal, Sweden. And this is a group of people that got together and said, hey, let's share De Pere with others. And this is a classic example of that. Communities are never what they are unless the people that live within it make it what it is. And that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate to have people that want to be involved, generally care about the community, and actually do something. That doesn't always happen, does it?
Yeah, very well said. And, earlier we were talking about character and talking about character more in the sense of what buildings look like. But honestly, character very much comes from those community groups. De Pere character very much comes from our rich history of involvement, our voter turnout, and how lucky we've been to have generations of families and also folks who found De Pere as a home who truly care about the community and want to get involved.
And we really strive, we're open for business. Come to De Pere. You don't have to be a lifelong resident to be involved in anything we have in De Pere, whether it be committee, commission, board, or any of these organizations you can belong to. If you're here, get involved.
Yeah,
whoever you're, and we mention that a lot too. Matter of fact, when I look for members on these various boards, committees, and commissions, I like to see people that just got here and have that passion, which I never knew they had. I mean, literally, people are emailing me or calling me or talking to me saying, "I've got great interest in the housing authority. Is there a chance I can get involved?" Well, that's incredible. And a lot of that stuff you don't get unless you have connectiveness nowadays on social media. And De Pere's got a really great reach on social media, just past 20,000 followers on Facebook. And we find out a lot of people get their information about all De Pere through social media. Is that not correct?
Absolutely. The way we digest information and get information is so different than it was a long time ago. So we talked about the meaning of the title, Bridging De Pere, and, connectedness and stuff, but there's actual bridging De Pere happening in the future. Talk to me a little bit about the South Bridge project.
Yeah, I did mention before that we had 3 bridges in the history of De Pere. We're looking at a 4th coming up, not in the same location, somewhere else. The South Bridge Connector has been a concept, an idea that's been bantered about since the 1960s. It was first mentioned, I think, in 1964 to have some kind of interchange or, South Road with the bridge and about the area that it's going to go right now. So in the last, 5, 6, 7 years, it's kind of gained steam, and now we're to the point now where it's actually happening. We have the I-41 interchange completed at Southbridge, which is, we should say this right now, Southbridge, I'm trying to think of all the roads, Southbridge, Rockland, and Red Maple Road are all going to be one name.
Right.
Yeah.
In September.
And it's going to be named Generations Boulevard.
Generations Boulevard.
What about that? How'd that happen?
So, I believe it was the council conversation. And, the reality is this, the way this bridge corridor works, it's along several existing roads that have different names. And that will be extremely confusing for, your DoorDash driver trying to get food to you.
Sure.
Or your Uber driver trying to pick you up, or really anyone trying to find your house for a birthday party. So knowing it made a lot more sense to have one name. You exit Highway 41 on a road, you drive that entire road, you cross the bridge, you're still on the same road instead of being on 3 different roads.
Different roads.
The council talked about Generations Boulevard, and this is actually a timely one because the official name change will happen in September of this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it pays homage to, I think, the Menominee tribe, and we might get this wrong a little bit, but to the local tribes in the area.
Absolutely, yes.
And how they, pay respect to the future and future generations, and that's kind of where it came from.
Right.
Now, I think we're chopping a little bit, but I think it's pretty cool that happened. It's also pretty neat that the council, the city actually, were the ones that drove this name change, pun intended, by the way, because the county didn't say, hey, change the name. You could have left it as is, but we realized that's just not right. So it's really just us. It's not the Ledgeview portion. It's not the Lawrence portion. It's just us. The bridge, obviously a brand new bridge that will be finished hopefully in 2030, 2031-ish ballpark. But that's something too that hopefully we can involve with as far as naming the structure, since it kind of goes through De Pere.
Absolutely.
Now we know that there's other entities involved, Brown County that'd be involved with this as well. But it's my hope, I'm sure it's yours and the council, that it's just not called the South Bridge. I think we can do better than that. We have the Bart Starr Bridge and the Tillman Bridge and, Claude Alloway. So it's our hope, so the residents know that we like to name this. We have a name that we actually put out there, named after Arthur Altmeyer, who was the founder of Social Security and was a De Pere resident, graduated De Pere High School in 1914. And we kind of want to name it after him, but we're still not there yet.
Right.
So we want people to know that we're trying to name the structure.
And there's time.
And
right?
there's time.
There's time. The bridge won't be done until 2031. But imagine this experience, right? So I think one thing that a lot of us are excited about, if you drive the Claude Alloway Bridge and work your way through those roundabouts now, there's a lot of trucks. There's a lot of folks that really aren't just heading home. It's big trucks that are trying to make deliveries. This bridge is going to be such a relief valve for that. And then, we'll maybe change the experience of downtown De Pere a little bit because you won't have the heavy truck traffic. Think about all the folks who live on the east side now. They have another way to get over if they work in the Fox Valley and similar, anyone moving up. So it's a really needed transportation network ad, and it's going to be wonderful for our community.
Which will really help as well traffic concerns people have for the downtown. I mean, we have stuff going on in the downtown, both on the east and west side, and that should help alleviate that. But this is very exciting. It'll also add to growth. We don't know what, we don't know how, we don't know when, but we're anticipating that, obviously. Hey, let's go to another project. Southbridge Connector, huge. And then we have another project on the west side, Main and Reed Reconstruction.
Which is we have to talk about that.
Long overdue. And this is, so we can get this out to the general public as well. Main and Reed's a Department of Transportation, State Highway 3257. We maintain, which we've done, and we know it's not in the best of condition, and we've been trying for years to get it on the docket for the DOT to do a reconstruct. Right. It's happening.
Let me ask you this first. So if you are driving into downtown De Pere from the west, and you're curving around and you're heading to Nicolay Restaurant, what is your strategy for crossing the railroad tracks?
Wow.
Because I swing hard all the way right, and I feel if I do that, my car doesn't totally bottom out.
It's something, isn't it? And so people understand CN Rail, there's a railroad that owns the line. So all we can do is complain.
But the good news is
we
part
pass
of the,
on, but it will be redone. It's going to be a rubberized surface.
It is helpful for me to know as I endure it that, this is coming, right? It's, you drive those roads and we can feel the need, but the project is coming. Construction is tough. We're working really hard with our businesses, especially to minimize disruption and ensure that customers can still get to the places they love. But it is such a needed reconstruction.
And this will be a future podcast as we get closer to construction
we'll
to bring those folks in or whatever, because we are concerned for them, and we're going to do all we can, and so will the state, to mitigate that. So that's exciting.
It'll be wonderful when it's done. It'll be worth all the headache.
Worth all the headaches. So bridging De Pere is twofold.
Yes. So I think we could talk forever about De Pere, but most people would probably turn us off because they would get bored.
They would.
Let's wrap it up a little bit. So another favorite part for me for State of De Pere was the way our MC Amy kind of layered in everyone's favorite memory. So why don't you share your favorite memory of De Pere, and then I'll share mine.
Okay. So my favorite memory, so I lived on Wisconsin Street where Shopko was, and now is taken down on the corner of Wisconsin and William Street. William Street's been reopened, which is really cool. But we spent most of our time, as kids, playing in the downtown. That's just kind of where we were. Irwin School had a school and had a little playground, so we played there. But I'm not sure you know this, and folks don't know this as well. Our favorite playground was Voyager Park, but it wasn't Voyager Park. It was pre-Voyager Park. It was actually what we consider today an environmental site designated by the EPA for cleanup.
Great, super
so
healthy.
All of us kids would go play in the sulfur piles and coal piles, and people listening right now would recognize that because that's what it was. And it was the city dump where they discarded. It was the city dump, but that's where we played. So basically, the footprint of Voyager Park, and this is my memory. I'm not sure if this is good or bad. Is where we grew up and had the most fun. Wildlife down there that we, most of it were probably rats, so I'm not sure if you consider that wildlife. De Pere was along that area. We did have a train depot down where we entered Voyager Park, and it was also they had milling companies. So farmers would bring in their crop, and then we had I think it was a 6-story milling building called Olson Milling, which burned down in the early 1970s. Huge, massive fire right across from CA Lawton, and Lawton's been around for years. So people would actually, I shouldn't say this, but they would climb into the abandoned Olson Milling building, which was not such a good idea. I never did, for the record. So my fondest memories
I believe you've reached the statute of limitations, so we won't tell the police department.
No, they should not. So my fondest memory is playing in an area that we should not have been in, that, city leaders way back when said, we can do better than what we have right here. And then the park is here right now. Isn't that exciting?
And I'm sure even that was a change, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Huge change, yeah. And very recent. This is 40 years old, the Voyager Park.
It's funny because, in my mind, it's been here forever.
Correct. And it just wasn't, And I've been here my entire life. So I'm a very boring person. I mean, went to school, grade school, and high school, went to Santa Barbara College. So I do have a lot of memories, and we could do this forever. It could be a separate podcast, but that's probably my favorite one.
Yeah, that's a good one. Mm-hmm. So I am not a lifelong De Pere resident, but I do have a memory way back from like the 1990s. So I grew up in the Fox Valley, went to high school at Menasha High School, and on the weekends...
Go Blue Jays.
Go Blue Jays. On the weekends, on Friday nights, if we were lucky and had enough money from our jobs, we would make the trek up to De Pere, and we would stop at a coffee shop kind of down to West Downtown called The Factory. I don't remember where it was. I just know it was in a very cool building.
In De Pere?
In De Pere, downtown De Pere.
I have nothing. I feel so sad about
and
this.
We would get the big cappuccinos that came in like bowls, and we would play board games until like 11 o'clock at night, and we thought we were the coolest kids in the world. But even then, so driving up from Menasha and spending Friday night in De Pere, and for us, that was a long drive. I mean, Highway 40 was not 70 miles an hour. We were in old cars as high schoolers. But you could feel the energy and just the sense of place in De Pere, and it really resonated with all of us. We loved it. We would make this drive as much as we could. We had such a great time. We still talk about it. So,
well, that's really cool. And it's what we talked about before. We want people to experience De Pere. You did that, So it doesn't have to be a resident to enjoy. It can be anyone else.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I think we covered a lot in this first.
I think we did. And, I think podcast. I'd love to hear for anyone listening if they want to reach out to the city and give us topics for the future that they'd like us to chat about. I think also folks can anticipate hearing from other members on our team. It won't just be me and you all the time, but we can certainly, do this again
because we're very proud of this organization. We're kind of biased. We think this organization is incredible. And
Absolutely.
We say that a lot.
Yes.
So we're going to bring them in. Obviously, we won't be here. They'll just come in and just talk.
And they'll probably do way better than us, honestly.
Well, I really enjoyed this.
I did too. It was fun. We did it.
We nailed it. So this is the first episode of Bridging De Pere. So I'm joined with Kim, and Kim, any parting words you might have?
Thanks to all for listening. Hope to hear from you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yep.
Have a good day.
Bye.